Good morning, evening, afternoon, everyone. Today I am joined with Chad, and we are going to be talking about an awesome topic, in my opinion, which is JSON support for MemoryDB and ElastiCache. But first, I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Kyle Dickinson. I'm with the AWS Customer Incident Response Team, joined by Chad.
Hey, Kyle, appreciate that. My name's Chad Lacey. I'm a global sales strategist with AWS, and we're both joined with our special guest, Abe. Abe, if you want to introduce yourself.
Yes, hello everyone. My name is Abhay Saxena. I'm a product manager with the in-memory databases team here at AWS.
Now, what is MemoryDB and ElastiCache for those that might not have heard about that service before?
Yeah, so as I said, I'm part of the in-memory databases team. So we build databases that keep data in memory or in RAM. And we offer two of those services, ElastiCache, which is intended to be used as a cache or an ephemeral data store, and MemoryDB, which gives you durable data storage along with in-memory performance. So yeah, we offer ElastiCache with two engines. You can use ElastiCache with Redis, and you can use ElastiCache with Memcached, and we offer MemoryDB with Redis only. So yes, those are the two in-memory database services we offer.
Awesome. And what is this new launch that you have going on, and what was the problem before, and how is this going to solve that problem?
Yeah, so one of the key benefits of Redis is, of course, apart from the fact that all data is in memory, so it is ultra fast in performance. The other advantage is, native data structure support with Redis. So instead of just storing key value pairs, where you traditionally would, serialize your data into a string and then store that as a value in the key value database, what you can do is you can store your data structure as is. So your data structure could be a linked list, could be a hash map, could be geospatial data, what have you, and you can store that data as is in memory and then operate on that data in memory, right? So when you say, let's say you want to, update one part of the hash set, you don't need to retrieve the complete hash set value over the wire to the client, update it, and then send it back. You can just say, hey, I want to update this part of the hash set, and Redis does it in memory for you, right? So that obviously gives you better performance, better throughput, and lower network transfer. And now what we're doing with this launch is we're adding another data type that you can store natively, which is JSON, another popular data format in programming today. You can store JSON documents natively with both ElastiCache for Redis and MemoryDB for Redis, and operate on JSON documents in memory. So that's exciting for those that use JSON.
Now, JSON, because we have awesome viewers from, just learning about AWS, and then very well skilled individuals that have been using AWS for a very long time. Can you explain JSON real quick?
Yeah, so JSON stands for JavaScript Object Notation, which is essentially a file format that uses human readable text to store and transmit data essentially. So think of it like a tree-like structure where you can store data, and it is also human readable, so it helps with easier debugging, observing the data, and so on. It's a popular format for people or for developers to store data in that format because it helps you not only look at it as humans, but also be able to parse as a tree and store that data in a structured format.
So,
Okay, so I like that term, human readable.
yeah, I like
Yeah,
that as well.
yeah, makes life much easier when you're looking at the data and trying to figure out what's stored where. So
So, with respect to ElastiCache and MemoryDB, what does this new feature mean in a difference between using those two services?
yeah, so taking a step back, let's chat about the two services themselves, right?
Yeah.
So as I said earlier, ElastiCache is intended to be used as a cache. So, you've got your data stored in another database, let's say, another NoSQL database like DynamoDB, or it might be stored in a relational database like RDS or Aurora. And, you're dissatisfied with the performance. And what you would traditionally do is you would add a cache on top of it to accelerate the read-write performance. And that's where ElastiCache for Redis comes in. So you sort of store that data into ElastiCache like as a cache in memory, and you get microsecond reads and writes performance, and also high scale along with that. On the flip side, with MemoryDB, it essentially operates as an in-memory database. So it does store data in memory, but along with that, it also stores all data on disk. So the key difference is when you write data to MemoryDB, it not only writes to memory, but also writes to what is called a multi-AZ transaction log. Right, so we store data across multiple AWS availability zones for every write to make sure that data is not lost. So once written to MemoryDB, the data is always there. Whereas with ElastiCache, it's intended to be used as a cache, so we only write it in memory. And so, let's say you are using a replica with ElastiCache, it is possible that there is some data loss if the primary goes down. Right. So while data is being replicated to the replica, if the primary goes down before that data is replicated, your replica is going to have incomplete data. With MemoryDB, that is not a problem, and so it can be used as a primary database. That's fundamentally the two difference, between the two services. And so with JSON, we now support native JSON for both services. Both services are Redis compatible, as I say. And so if you are, let's say, using something like DocumentDB, which is a native JSON document database, you might want to add a cache on top of that. Then you can use ElastiCache and store your JSON documents natively in ElastiCache, right? And alternatively, you could use MemoryDB as your primary database and store JSON documents natively in MemoryDB as well.
So you're mentioning ElastiCache and MemoryDB. One is, in memory as cache, and then the other one actually writes it to a disk. What are some of those use cases for both services? But then what about this new feature release? What are the use cases for that as well?
Yeah, so ElastiCache, as I said, can be used as a cache. You got your data in another database. You can add a cache on top of that, get microsecond reads and write, so ultra fast performance. You can also use ElastiCache as an ephemeral data store. So there are use cases where data loss itself isn't the end of the world for your application or for your customer experience, right? So think of analytical use cases, or for example, a machine learning feature store, right? So there might be use cases where you want to store that data for really fast performance, but if you lose that data, it doesn't break the customer experience because that data can be retrieved either from your primary data store, or you essentially sort of reset the data for the customer. So common use cases are caching, geospatial data. You can also use it as a gaming leaderboard, for example, because of the native data structures that ElastiCache for Redis supports. You can also use it, as a machine learning feature store, for example. On the flip side, MemoryDB is intended to be used as a primary database with ultra-fast performance. So where traditionally you might have added a cache on top of another NoSQL database, now you can have just one database. You're not managing and operating two databases. You're using just one, MemoryDB, and you're getting the benefits of fast performance and durability. So the common use cases with MemoryDB are things like, you want a durable user session store, right? So you can store user session data that you don't want to lose, because if you lose that data, the user experience is impacted significantly, let's say. So that's a primary use case. Another big one that we're observing is things like IoT data. So IoT devices from the field, send out a whole bunch of data, and you want to store that durably before processing it. And data loss is not an option, and you need high speed and performance. So that's another good use case. Another big one is as a messaging store or a message broker between microservices. So in the microservices world, microservices are talking to each other asynchronously. And what you can do is use MemoryDB as a message broker. So they can send messages that another microservice can read and process. Now, in all of this, you can store data as key value pairs. Instead, now you can store data as JSON documents, right? And as I said, JSON is a very popular data storage format, that people use and developers use in applications to process data and store data. Now you don't have to serialize that JSON document. You can store it as is in memory, in MemoryDB or ElastiCache, and operate on it. So let's say you're storing, as let's take the example of the IoT data. Let's say you're storing IoT information, including, device information, location, maybe a message, and maybe some other stuff. And you can store this as a JSON document in a tree format. And you can easily just read the part of the JSON document that you want to read. So you can retrieve, sub keys or sub parts of the JSON document. You can update sub parts of the JSON document, and that gives you, extreme performance. And it gives you the flexibility of not having to serialize and retrieve the full document over the wire. So that's really the benefit that we're launching today with JSON support for ElastiCache and MemoryDB.
Super cool. So I think you've got a demo for us. Does it make sense to take a look at that now?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right.
Demo.
That's right.
Cool. So assuming you guys can see my screen.
Yeah.
So yeah, I wanted to show you. So here's a sample JSON document, right? So here's essentially, I created this MemoryDB cluster earlier. So I'm not going to go into how to create one. It's pretty straightforward. You can go to the AWS console, the MemoryDB or ElastiCache console, and create a cluster. So it's already created here. You can use this as a Redis endpoint with any Redis client. So as you can see, I'm using the common Redis command line interface here and connecting to this endpoint here. And I'm trying to set the value, the key, which is key, with this JSON document here. So, it's essentially a straightforward JSON document with not a lot of nesting, but as you can see, it includes some sort of, imaginary employee information, essentially. So ID, name, gender, hire date, and billing, right? So we've got 5 employees here. So I'm going to take that and I'm going to put that in. Oops, there you go. And now let's go log in here. So I'm going to show you. Let's get that key here. Oops, looks like that didn't take. So I'm going to exit out. Done. All right. Sorry, technical difficulties there. Oh, there you go. So as you can see, now that JSON is stored directly in the JSON format in Redis, right? Now what we can do is pull out specific information from the document. So in this case, I just pull the complete document back, but I don't have to do that. What I can do is, for example, let's say I want to pull the ID 21, the employee which has the ID 21. So I can just specify this format. This is essentially a JSON. Think of this syntax as, it's a pretty common syntax. It's called the JSON path syntax of accessing, sub parts of a JSON document. It's a publicly available format that you can look up and use. So I'm going to pull the ID, the information about the employee with ID equals 21. So there it is. It doesn't need to pull the entire, JSON document, for example. Let's try to pull, everyone who's in the F2 building, for example. So here now you've got 2 employees, Craig and Dwayne, both being returned here. Both are in the F2 building. You can also combine filters, right? So what you can do is if you want to search through your JSON document for, let's say, everyone who's been hired after 2020 and the gender is female, you can enter this. You get the employee IDs of 21 and 15. Right? So those are the employees which meet those criteria. So as you can see, it's fairly powerful. All of this data is in memory. It's not retrieving the entire document over the wire. You can set and get specific parts of the JSON document all the time in memory, and you get microsecond read and write latencies here.
Yeah, I noticed you were getting returns as soon as I heard your enter key hit, and I'm just like, wow, that is pretty fast.
Yeah, so the in-memory performance is literally microseconds. The network itself is generally slower than RAM, and so a lot of the latency you would see is purely from the network, really. So yeah, that's one part. So I wanted to show how this works, and then I'm gonna switch over here, and I wanted to show some performance numbers as well, so that you can see how fast and how much you can really scale with this feature here. All right. So we published this blog a while ago, just a few weeks ago when we launched this feature. We wanted to show essentially, the scale with which you can operate. The good thing with ElastiCache and MemoryDB is you can scale them both. Both services can scale up as well as scale out, depending on your needs. So you can, as you can see down here, you can scale up to different EC2 instance types and get higher memory, higher CPU, higher throughput, or you can scale out and you can add multiple shards to your database, and you can essentially multi-shard your data and scale out as much as you like. You can also, of course, scale in and scale down depending on when your scale doesn't require it. So here, this first graph is really showing the basic performance for an entire JSON document get, right, for different instance types. As you can see, we are hitting about 800 requests per second right here. Mm-hmm. And then as you go down, this one is actually getting the entire document here, which is a pretty large document here. So as you can see, I think the file size is about 521 KB, right? So a lot of the throughput is impacted by the size of it, but you don't have to pull the entire document. You can pull certain keys, and as you can see, throughput reaches very high numbers. You can hit up to 200,000 requests per second by transmitting small amounts of data. Right, so that's a big benefit. You don't have to pull the entire document. Without JSON support, you would serialize it, store it as a string, retrieve the entire string, and you can't get as much throughput. But now you essentially just pull a part of the key. So there are further graphs here which show, for example, if you're going to pull data with multiple filters that are going to cycle through the JSON document, of course, your performance is going to be impacted, right? For example, if MemoryDB or ElastiCache has to iterate through the JSON document, it can take an order of n depending on the size of the JSON document to iterate through it in memory. And so your performance is going to be impacted by that number. So these are some examples of what that looks like. So yeah, those are some of the things I wanted to show. This graph, we'll share the link for this blog, so the viewers can go through this, understand the performance they can expect. But really, the key message is, it is highly scalable. You can scale up, you can scale out, and get in-memory performance with both ElastiCache and MemoryDB.
That's very impressive.
Yeah. So I'm just curious. This is available today, right? The JSON support is live. Everybody can start using it right now.
Yep, it is available live right now for both services, ElastiCache and MemoryDB. It's available for no additional cost beyond what you pay for ElastiCache and MemoryDB. So yeah, it's available today.
And if someone wants to get started using ElastiCache and MemoryDB, now that this feature set, it might have been something they've been waiting for. I believe there's a free tier with ElastiCache and MemoryDB available.
That is correct. Yes, we've got a MemoryDB free trial for 2 months, and we also have a free tier for ElastiCache, which is up to a year. So yes, you can use it and test it out for free.
Awesome. Yeah, and so for any links that were mentioned in blog posts, they'll be shared in the chat as you see this. So be on the lookout for those links. And well, do you have any other things that you'd like to cover before we head out?
No, that's about it. I'm excited to see our customers use this. We're excited about the native JSON support. This is something that our customers have been asking for a while. So yeah, if you've got an application that needs ultra fast performance and you're using JSON, please look at MemoryDB and ElastiCache, depending on your use case. And if you've got questions, yeah, please do not hesitate to reach out. We'll share ways to get in touch with us, and yeah, we're happy to help out.
Hey, thank you so much for your time today.
Yeah, really appreciate you sharing this with us.
Thank you.